taken off his snowsuit. He had his uniform, long johns, t-shirt, underwear, and he had sweat all night long. And then his canteens were out, so he's frozen. It's a Navy kid. We're going through SEER school. I think he was a P3 analyst or whatever. And that kid was miserable. And I'm like ball and chain. I'm dragging this kid around for 3 days, frozen. He's hating life. I'm carrying one of his canteens inside of my jacket to try to thaw it out. But yeah, you know what? You and I, we embraced the suck. This 3-4 inches we had, that's a dusting in anywhere. Like 3 or 4 feet of dusting for you out in Wyoming growing up. But Texas, man, they just lose their ever-loving minds.
Yeah. But it is a different cold. It's a wet cold out there, so I'll give them that. But
we're colder than Alaska. I mean, this is really cold.
That's why I always say real cowboys come from Wyoming.
Yeah. Well, I finally got the electricity on at 3:15. I got the well hooked up, got a little travel hair dryer in there and light. So I am actually at my father's place, so you can see all the I Love Me memorabilia up on the wall. So mom and dad are in the other room. They said to tell you guys hello, and I want to thank them for graciously letting me use their internet tonight. So let's get down to brass tacks.
Nice.
You're a Marine grunt. You're in the first Gulf War with Task Force Ripper. So you're out there with this man right there, right?
Yeah. Oh, Mattis.
Yeah, Mattis, man.
How was it? And
Colonel Chaos.
The greatest tactician I've ever known in my life.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He's probably the dorkiest human being I've ever met in my life too, but his mind was incredible. Yeah. I mean, there was times that I was just flabbergasted because I'm like, this is the dumbest stuff. Excuse me, politically correct. Dumbest stuff I've ever done in my life. And it's just like everything in the Marine Corps. The whole end game was like, oh dang, that shit worked. Oh, sorry, that S word.
No, dude, you're fine.
That really worked. That was amazing, and his leadership style was a little bit different than mine.
Uh-huh.
He was more, he, believe it or not, he would blow a gasket, but I had a few run-ins with him, good run-ins and a few bad ones, if you know what I mean, because I was a real Marine. I had a first sergeant Ratcliffe into Sergeant Major Ratcliffe, and he'd been in the Marine Corps. I mean, I used to ask him if Jesus was a bad private, all that stuff. He'd been in forever,
right?
But I was the kind of Marine when I had first sergeant. When I was in Okinawa, and I was walking. I had to go to the company office. I had gotten into a little bit of trouble, and
oh, come on. Marines over in Okinawa?
So I was walking through the offices because when you're overseas, and you never go to the company office or the offices. When you're a bullet sponge, you never go to the company offices or the battalion offices or anything. So I went to the company offices. I had to go talk to my first sergeant. This is weird. I just remembered his name. It's First Sergeant Plummer. I had to go see First Sergeant Plummer because I got in a little bit of hoorah with a couple people and they were lieutenants. And so I was walking through and I came in through the door and I remember hearing this guy yell and and my spine hurt. I hurt. It was like hearing a snake, like a 20-foot boa constrictor hiss. It makes you want to throw up instantly. It was like that. And it was First Sergeant Ratcliffe. And I remember telling, there was another Lance Corporal. I was like, God, thank you, Jesus, for him not being my first sergeant. We went there and First Sergeant Plummer's like, the old Marine Corps thing. Did you kick his ass? Yes, sir, I did. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Don't ever do that again, but good job. So I was like all clear, but still hearing First Sergeant Ratcliffe yelling at somebody. He was weapons company at the time. I was like, it made me sick to my stomach as loud as he would. So literally about, I don't know, 6 months to a year before we went to Desert Storm, guess who got a new first sergeant? First Sergeant Ratcliffe was my first sergeant. Well, that guy was the most awesome person I've ever known. He taught me more about the Marine Corps than any human being ever could. the greatest leader I've ever known. He did 3 tours of Vietnam, got out, came back in. Wow. He used to have these scars across his head that looked like a hand going like this. And he used to say, I got attacked by a tiger in Vietnam. And I'm like, oh, and then I researched later, there was no tigers in Vietnam. But I used to thought, oh, God, the guy fought a tiger. He's that amazing. But later on, after Desert Storm and stuff, I was at Marine Combat Training, and I was out there for a couple of years as a troop handler, killing people. And then I became an instructor. I was an instructor. And on this day, I was, when you're a grunt, you think differently about air wingers.
I know.
You think differently about everybody. It's a good camaraderie, a good argument going back and forth. Oh yeah, your barracks has telephones. My barracks has nothing. two
tin cans and a string going across.
Exactly. I'm in a Quantum Bay. Shut up. I had some when I got there, I didn't realize that, like School of Infantry and stuff, it didn't matter if you were air winger, sergeant major, or first sergeant, whatever, and that was before that. I was just a corporal then, and I didn't, when you're a corporal, you're not trying to think about how the whole system works. So I bumped heads with a few, because when I went to Marine Combat Training, I was the first Marine there since its inception with combat action ribbons and stuff. And so it was like all the guys with stripes and rank with their little 3 ribbons and stuff were not very impressed with me, because when I jumped rank when I was in Desert Storm and stuff. And so I hand sewed, believe it or not, when I checked it, I hand sewed all my rank, and I had to put hash marks on, and they weren't very happy when I checked in. And I don't blame them. I looked like a bag of the donuts. Yeah, I looked horrible. And but anyway, all that went through. We were fighting back and forth, but Marine in the quarter, they were like, oh guys, this guy's pretty good, actually, going through the thing. But then all of a sudden I was teaching defensive tactics, and the truck was driving me up Smoky, if you remember, if you ever been to Camp Pendleton.
No.
Camp Pendleton, when you go into St. Onofre, the big hill in front of it is Smoky. It's on the other side of Mount Mother Effer, which everybody's heard of. It's on the other side. And I got up to the top, and he was from Boston, so he could never say my name right, ever. This was my first sergeant, believe it or not, in my almost 10 years. He was my first sergeant for almost 7 of them. Right. And he never said my name correct. So I get out of the truck, and I go around, and all I hear is, where the F is Sergeant Farnhurst? And I was like, you got to be shitting me right now. And ended up, he was amazing. He told me one time, he said, you know what, Sergeant Farnhurst? I go, sir, he deserves sir. Yeah. And he goes, you're the kind of Marine that every first sergeant sees walking in to check in and goes,
oh, thanks. Hey, boss.
And he goes, but no unit could live without a guy like you. And I thought that was the greatest compliment I ever got in my life, period.
That is awesome. So how many years did you spend in total?
About 9.5.
9.5? All right. And so when you got out, you were telling the story about going back to Wyoming, and you got a job there.
Well, I had a few jobs there, and I didn't last very well, because I joined the Marines when I was 17, and my father was an amazing person. It was all about discipline and respect, and earn your way up and get to the top and get where you are. Sure. And then, in the Marines, of course, I had done that. I had gone through all the stuff and worked my butt off and get there. And then when I got out of the Marines, I got a kid that's like 21 years old. That's my boss, telling me, you know what the fuck you're doing. What the heck you're doing. Sorry. And and I was like, well, how about I just punch you in the friggin' throat and we go about our business? And it didn't work out very well. But eventually I became a truck driver, and I worked for a company called Butane Power and Equipment. And I was driving propane all around Wyoming, and from Colorado back to Wyoming, and so on and so forth. It was a really good job, because I was by myself. Only person I had to yell at was myself. Which was awesome.
Traffic. All the idiots driving 55, 40 miles an hour in the left lane with the flashers on.
I said Wyoming.
Oh,
a traffic jam in his Wyoming is, there goes a car. There goes another car.
So you're drinking beer with some guys, and it turns out they're filming a movie up there, right?
Well, yeah, what does every good Marine do when he gets out of the Marine Corps? He gets drunk all the time. Yeah. And I hooked up. They used to call ourselves the Wild Bunch, whatever the heck that meant. But the Hoff brothers and all these guys, and we'd party all the time. And one night we were just splashed. And that night they were talking. They said, "Hey, did you read in the Casper Star Tribune that they're doing this movie here called Starship Troopers?" And I go, "No, why would I read the newspaper?"
Yeah.
And
have cartoons in it.
Yeah, exactly. Where's the crayons at? They're like, "Oh, we're looking for former military or outdoorsmen," which is the whole state of Wyoming, whole state of Colorado, the whole state of Nebraska, in South Dakota, North Dakota, everywhere around. Come and audition for this big studio, Sony Pictures studio production called Starship Troopers. Right. And so, being a drunk Marine, I'm like, I'm the baddest mother ever walked the face of earth. I'll kill everybody at that place, drunk as it gets. And well, the next day they held me up to it. And so I'm hungover as it gets. We get there, and believe it or not, in Wyoming, there was thousands of people there.
It was like an American Idol audition, huh?
Oh, it was incredible. How many movies you do up there. So it was, and I was just like, I'm not having it. It's the winter time, but it was a nice day. It was 30 degrees. It was nice. And I was like, God, I don't want to be in this line. I hate, and as you know, we hate getting in lines,
hurry up and wait.
Yeah. Right. Or in England, it's getting queues for 7 hours. No, once I got out of the Marines, I'm like, I'll never do that again. But wait in line for a couple hours. And as you know, I'm not very politically correct. I really hadn't ever dealt or met gay people before. And so the first gay person really steps in front of me. And he was a big time casting guy. And he comes in and he said, "Hey, were you an outdoorsman or are you a military guy?" And I was like over it. And I just looked at him. I don't know if I can say this other thing, but I said, "Don't I MF and look like a military man? Now go F yourself." And he goes, "Well, okay then." And I walked off. Well, sure enough, they cut it down to 50 people, and I was one of the guys. So I guess I gave them the right answer. And the next step was we were like sitting in the Hilton in Casper, Wyoming, which is the big hotel, the big 5-star. It was literally a 1-star, but we all thought it was a 5-star. And I was driving truck, so I had to park my truck outside. It was cold because it was April 1st or whatever. Yeah. And it was probably, so I had to leave my truck running outside. I just came back delivering from Douglas, Wyoming. So I was like, put my stuff, parked it. I went in, had my little red shirt, butane power and equipment, my name over here, cowboy boots, Wranglers on, baseball cap. And I walked in the door. I walked in the door, and there was a guy sitting there doing pull-ups. Big muscled up guy. His name was Royce Perkins. I still remember him. And he was doing pull-ups. He's like, yeah. And there's girls over there, and they all had and everybody had everything. And I'm like, what in the hell am I doing here? I am definitely in the wrong place. And they were all talking and giggling amongst each other. I knew nobody because I had spent all the time in the Marines. And plus I grew up in Pinedale, Wyoming. And this is Casper was the big city, which is, 180 miles away. So sure. I didn't really know that many people that I knew the Wild Bunch, the 4 guys that we all went out and got drunk all the time, cowboys, And anyway, the whole we're sitting there and they're going through, and all of a sudden the gay guy came through, which ended up being an awesome guy. I ended up loving him, but he came through with the guy. I'm like, holy cow! I just watched this movie called Outbreak, and that's one of the movie stars.
That's Dale Dye.
Yeah, I didn't know that at the time. We didn't have internet back then. Let me look who that guy is. Oh, he's a former Marine, a captain. He's 22 years in the Marine Corps. Oh, man,
Right.
But back then I'm like, all else fails, I can say I met a movie star because he did an awesome job in Outbreak. I loved. He's my favorite character in Outbreak. One of them. And Well, he comes in and he's talking. Oh, I'm like, damn, that voice is like, you know, and he likes to do the. I like to do the. He likes to do the. But he was doing the.
You fuck that.
Yes, I have anger management problems, so I like try to almost poke eyeballs out. But and he came in, and he did his whole spiel, and the last thing I remember him saying is, "You're going to report to me," and I was like, "Well, I've only been on the Marine. I know what report to me means." Yeah. You being an officer, you know what it means when an enlisted man reports to you. So,
did you go up there and beat on the hatch?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you really?
Anyway, we were there for forever. I was like one of the last guys called, and I'm like, I just want to kill people now and to get my truck and drive away. And if my propane tank in the back, it's only like 50,000 pounds of propane. It might make a little mark here. I just want to get out of here. And everybody's in there for like 15 minutes. I'm like, oh my God. So finally, Freddie Joe Farnsworth, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, walk up, blah, blah, blah. Enter. Captain Dye, I know you had an interview with him. He's still that to the day. Enter. And I come in, pow, right to attention. Sergeant Farnsworth, report his order. He was looking at something. He goes, "You're a Marine." He goes, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "What unit?" I said, "Suicide Charlie, 2 guidons, count them." And he goes, "About face." Wha-pow. I was in ropers, wha-pow as good as I could.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Drop it, give me 20." And I dropped once or two or 3 or 20, and I just stayed there. And he goes, "Oh, you want to recover, don't you?" I go, "Yes, sir." Yeah. So I recovered, and he literally sat there and he goes, "I hate 17." I go, "Sir?" Really? He goes, "I freaking hate 17." I go, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Now get the F out of my office." And I walked out. I was literally in that office for like 90 seconds. Everybody was 15 minutes. I was 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And I was like, that dude was awesome, but I screwed that shit up right there. Really bad. I said, I guess I did it. Yeah, I got, and then Lily came out and said, blah, 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 Farnsworth, stay. And I did Starship Troopers. And it was awesome. I mean, I learned a lot about the film business from him. He definitely made the film business understand they need a tech advisor. Either you can lose money and have a crappy movie, or you can have an awesome movie with a tech advisor. And that was Dale Dye. And he taught me a ton of stuff.
Yeah. So how many productions have you worked on with them over the years?
Oh,
Band of Brothers, The Pacific.
Yeah, not a lot. Wag the Dog, Starship Troopers, Rough Riders. There wasn't a lot, but they were long films. I had, by the time I was in my 3rd year, I was taking my resume to stunt coordinators. They're like, "Oh, you're pretty green, kid." And I go, "Green? I haven't stopped working for 3 years, But, but you go to Band of Brothers, you're there for a year, and
right.
So, yeah. And Captain's always been the kind of guy, Warriors Incorporated is an amazing company, but he's always been one of those guys that when they call me, he knows I'm there for him.
Yeah.
And he will only call me if he really needs me. So it's a love situation. He's an amazing man.
So what did they have you doing on Starship Troopers that incorporated your Marine Corps?
Well, at the time, I was hired originally as special ability, the guy that, and then when we went into boot camp, it's like, okay, you had all these guys, they had all these extras from Los Angeles, and stuff. And, let's put it this way. This first night, like I come in, I parked my truck, I had a big old 3,500 Chevy, big 1-ton Chevy truck. And everybody's like, "What is that? Is that a semi truck?" I know that's my pickup truck. And then, but I got a big old sea bag, and it had cold weather gear. I had Soros boots in it. I had big, thick, jackets and stuff. And they're all like, "Well, what's that?" And they're all carrying, because they issued us sweatpants, tennis shoes, extra pair of underwear, some cleaning gear, some like toothbrushes and stuff.
And where were they taking you?
And I asked Captain right before we went to boot camp, I said, "Hey, if I can carry it, can I bring it?" He goes, "Yeah, if you can hack it, you can pack it." All those little stuff. I was like, "Yes, sir." Roger that. So I brought a sea bag. I had cold weather. I had bottoms, tops, boots, socks, thermals, everything. because our boot camp was in Casper and it started April 16th. And
Still
I'm
cool.
like, no, it was not. It was amazing when they all came in. It was, that's the thing about Casper, Wyoming, is it can be 75 degrees a day and minus 30 the next day with wind of 80 miles an hour and blizzarding. So I'm like, I know if I can carry it, I'm going to take it because I can always carry it back out. Yeah. And literally the first night, it snowed like 12 inches. We woke up, all the tents, we all in shelter house, all the tents that fell in. You got Denise Richards and all these, one of my ex-wives, Radine Ravella, and all these girls are like, Jesus Christ, because they're all like wearing silk, let me be tight and be pretty because of the Paul Verhoeven movie. And it was bad, but I'm like, okay, big jacket, big boots and boot. All right, let's go. And then they had already building Tango Zorrillo. I forgot the base. And so Captain Dye goes, go down and do a recon. Find me a warm place. So I run down the thing, and we find a place, and they had some propane tanks there. Work for a propane company, so I get all the propane heaters working. Right. Set up a thing. I go up, get everybody, go down there, and Captain was like, "You're pretty handy." I was like, yes,
"You're a Marine, of course."
Exactly. So we went through the whole thing, and my whole job was to start it was like the first 3 weeks he would teach it and I would show them basically, and then it kind of came into, sorry. I would get like extras would come in and stuff, and I'd go and train them and so on and so forth. Not major, mainly Mike Stokey, which is his partner, who's an amazing Marine, a wonderful man too. Mike would take a lot of that stuff. So, but as the film started, Mike was doing second unit and Captain Dye was doing first unit. And then I was kind of helping out with things and a couple of other guys. And then about halfway through, we had just gone to the Badlands in South Dakota, and he's like, hey, this is how Captain Dice sounds. Hey, Sergeant Farnsworth, come in here. So now I got this thing. I'm doing this movie called Rough Riders, and I don't know nothing about horses. He goes, how would you like to leave Hollywood and come to Hollywood and work with me on this movie? And I was like, roger that. I'm in, because I had never seen that kind of money, even though in today's terms, I would not get out of bed for the kind of money I was making. But it was like, oh my gosh, I'm making like $1,800 a week. Oh my God, this is like, I'm rich. I know what rich people, I'm Donald Trump Farnsworth. And little did I know I was not making that much money. But
it was a good time.
The whole thing went down, and so I called my boss. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm proud of you. Go on, do your stuff." And so I came to Hollywood, finished Starship Troopers, and then I went literally the day after Starship Troopers. I went off and went and did a movie called Rough Riders.
Oh, we'll go backtrack, and tell the story about Jake Busey.
Oh, one of my best friends in the business, Jake. We had just started filming. We did the boot camp and stuff, and of course, everybody, and we all jump in a van. There's like all these vans lined up. Jump in. I just like jump in a van, and one of the guys, I don't know, I can't remember names. I don't remember names of any human being except for my daughter. Period. But he jumps in. He's a big, tall guy with big old chiclet teeth. Big old teeth. And I was like, jumps in, and I'm like, he's like, hey, you gotta get out of the way. And I'm like, you need to get out of the van. And I'm like, I'm not getting out of the van. He goes, do you know who you're talking to? And I said, well, my name's Freddie Joe Farnsworth. Now you know who the fuck you're talking to. Oh, sorry. You know who you're talking to. And he goes, nobody's ever talked to me like that. And I said, well, you got a problem then. And we ended up being best friends. He was like, that was awesome. Great friends.
Yeah, they tried to kick you off the van, and you told him to go pound sand, and not in this friggin' lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah. If you can kick my ass, you can have my seat.
They're not used to hearing that, are they?
Oh, no. People aren't usually used to hearing that unless they've worked with me or Captain Dye or Kevin Kent, the Navy SEAL at work does it. Hey, Humphrey. I don't know how Humphrey says, but Jim Deaver sometime will be like that. Sergeant Major from the Marine Corps, all tech advisors. We don't take shit from none of them.
so then you go off to work Rough Riders. And dad's in that. His dad's in that movie, right?
Yes, his dad, General Pershing, I think he played. And my mother thinks Gary Busey is Buddy Holly. He's not Gary Busey. He's Buddy Holly. He's, the movie. And for everybody out there who hasn't seen the movie Buddy Holly, go see Buddy Holly, watch a video of Buddy Holly, and then watch the movie. He was Buddy Holly in the movie. And my mom is older, and just like your parents are, they're older. Buddy Holly was an icon. Mm-hmm. And so my mom was like, oh yeah, Buddy Holly's in the movie, and I'm like, Buddy Holly's on the movie, Mom. Buddy Holly died in a plane crash. And she's like, no, he's in the movie. Sorry, my daughter's. You all right?
Yeah.
Where you? No, go upstairs.
No,
Yo, get. Sorry.
Your daughter's precious.
Oh, she's amazing. Go on, go see Mom. Anyway, but my mom was like, you've got to get me Buddy Holly's autograph. And I'm like, okay, Mom. I'm like, so one day I was sitting up there, I was in my Rough Rider outfit, and I got my first acting part, which was scaring the crap out of me. And so I'm sitting on a hill, and I'm trying to remember my lines, and oh gosh, here comes Gary Busey. And here's Buddy Holly. Here's Silver Streak. Here's like a great actor I've known my whole life. And I'm like, man, oh man. And he comes walking by, and I'm like, oh, excuse me, Mr. Busey. I go, you know what? I just want to meet you, and I'd like to get your autograph. And he goes, take you till I'm busy. Get the fuck away from me. And I was like, what? Hey, how about go fuck yourself? And he's like, have you fired or whatever. I was like, have you fired? I don't give a crap. I had been out of rings that long. And anyway, the whole thing went through, and the next day, Mr. Busey, Gary, he comes walking up, and he goes, hey, you're Freddie Joe Farnsworth, right? And I'm like, yes, sir. And he goes, hey, I talked to my son last night, and he told me that the first time you met him, you told him to fuck off. And I guess we have something in common. And I just wanted to shake your hand, and we became good friends too.
Yeah, it was funny. God. So what'd you do after that? Now you kind of became a stunt guy.
On that show, I really, some of my friends some people I became friends with on Starship Troopers or Cowboys, of course, Cowboy, you interrupt. And I met this guy's name's Clint Lilly Berkey, one of my mentors for the stunt stuff. He's the same age as me, probably a little bit older, but his dad was Jack Lilly, and his grandfather, I don't remember his grandfather's name, but they were like the big wranglers. Like horse people in the film business, like John Wayne films and so on and so forth. And so I kind of like, oh, okay, I'm good on horses. I know all this stuff. So I went and Berkey, his nickname is Berkey Clint, and he introduced me to his dad and everything. And his dad would call me and say, hey, we got this movie coming up. I want you to come over and ride horses. And now that I'm older, that's code for come do my work for free. And so, but I wanted to learn the business so bad because I wasn't born in it. I didn't know anything about it. So I would go over and I would, what he calls leg the horses up, or I'd, we'd go out and try to rear in horses or the fall on the horses or the ride, just get them all ready. And eventually it just became where all the stunt coordinators would see me or wranglers would see me, and they'd be like, hey, why don't you come work on the film and stuff? And that's kind of how I built my resume up. So Rough Riders, I did my first stunt in it, and I also did my first acting part in it, and it just kind of just moved on from there.
So how did you go from, I told you my warrant officer, Gene Griggs, his dad was in all the movies in Hollywood, and Gene kind of grew up around that as well. How did you break? Because stunt guys, that's kind of a tight community, isn't it?
Well, it's very tight. I mean, just like you said, he grew up around that, and majority of stunt performers grew up around that. And listen, I'm a kid that grew up in Wyoming, Pinedale, Wyoming, an amazing town, a small town, but amazing. Mm-hmm. And then I went in the Marines, and as you know, when you go in the Marines, especially as a bullet sponge grunt, that's all you know. I traveled the world, but I didn't know anything about the world. And
bullet sponge.
So the whole thing was I just when I came out here and I said, you know what? If I'm going to dig ditches, I'm going home. I'm from a great state. I'm going back home. So I'm going to work in the film business. And I started doing everything in the film business that would hire me. I've been an armor. I've been a props guy. I've been a special effects guy. Anything it was. I don't care. I'm like, you're going to pay me. I'm going to learn the business. I'm going to do it. You know, I carried this off for almost 2 years in my squad before I became squad leader. And that was probably that probably helped me out more in the film business. It probably helped me out as much as horses did. Because the 249, the squad automatic weapon, was new to the film business. And like I did a movie called Rough Riders with Captain Dive. I'm sorry, Rules of Engagement. And the armors were like this great armor's dad. His name was Chuck Russo. His dad was on the experimental team when the M16 came in. So he was like a wonderful man. And Chuck was like, well, you got to help us out with this 249. And I carried it for 2 years. I'm like, well, you know, take your gas over here. And so, you know, I did stunts on Rules of Engagement. I helped Captain Dive with the military on Rules of Engagement. And I helped the armors on Rules of Engagement. So it's just like, and then that led to another thing. There was a show called Combat Missions. It was like a reality show. And they had 249s and the armors like, they got a hold of ISS and Chuck Russo's like, get a hold of Freddie Joe. He knows. So I got a job on that. So one thing led to another. And then Jack Lilly would get me jobs. And when I first started too, I also met a guy by the name of Matt Siglock. And he was doing JAG, you know, his Master Sergeant, you know, he helped me out a lot. You know, he was the kind of guy that was like, oh my God, I haven't worked in a month. And he was like, hey, Freddie Joe, I'll get you work. Be here Tuesday. And he'd fire people to get me work. And he was a very loyal Marine. And still to this day, I'm very loyal to him. He does NCIS as well now. So, you know, I had some great mentors, you know, stunt business. Years ago, I did a show. I met a guy by the name of Max Martini, and he's an actor.
Does that sound familiar? What's he been in?
He was in like 13 Hours, Pacific Rim. He did a TV series called The Unit. He's been in a ton of stuff. He's a blessing to the military. Does a ton of charities and so on. And we became like best friends years ago, like over 20 years ago. And we both did a movie. I was acting and he was acting in a movie called The Great Raid. And and he played First Sergeant Wojo in it, and the best part in the film. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. I was friends with this actor by the name of Holt McCallany and another friend, Jake Busey, as I've told you, and Max Martini. Well, I was down in LA. I had my ranch at the time, and so it was like 140 miles from LA, but I was down there working, and I get this call from Holt McCallany. He's like, and this is how he talks. He's like, hey, Freddie Joe, he's a New York guy, real deep voice, done a lot of theater. You know, I got this, I got this movie I'm trying to audition for, and I think I need your help. So I'm like, all right, man, as soon as I get done, I'll come over there. So I go to his house. He lived in Studio City at the time. So I go to his house, and it's The Great Raid, and he's reading First Sergeant Wojo. And I didn't tell him I had just got casted for Lieutenant Foley. Foley was my name on that show. Lieutenant Foley, right? I didn't tell him that, but I'm like, okay, yeah, let me help you go through the First Sergeant, which was to me the best character in the whole film. And so I helped him for a couple hours, and we got done. He's like, oh, thank you so much. I'll call you. You know, and I was like, oh, great. And so I'm heading my ranch, and I get this call from Jake Busey. He's like, hey, can you come over here and help me out with this thing? I got this audition tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, sure. So I get there. It's for First Sergeant Wojo. And I was like, oh. So I didn't say nothing. I didn't want to be conflict of interest with my friends, and went through it, helped him out. He's like, oh, man, thanks. Thank you so much. You know, yeah, dude. Thanks, man. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I literally, and Jake lived over like in Marina Del Rey area at the time. So that was all the way on the other side of LA. And Max lived back over like in Toluca Lake. So I'm driving back towards my ranch back north, and I get a call from Max. And this is how Max talks. Max is like, dude, oh my God, I got this thing. I need your help. And I'm like, what? He goes, dude, you got to come help me. So I'm like, all right, man. So I go to his house, and it's First Sergeant Wojo.
So
I'm like,
three different guys reading
three
for
actors
different
in the same day. I'm like going through the whole thing. I'm like, oh my goodness. And not one of them I told. So literally 2 months later, I'm in Australia. We're in this amazing place called Xanadu's, right in Main Beach. It's by Surfer Paradise, just up the road from Brisbane. And I'm in my hotel, and I'm talking every day to the first AD, and everybody's like, "Tell me who gets casted. Tell me who gets casted." Well, it turns out Max got casted. So it was pretty. That was a fun story too, because he got to his room. It's literally, it's 15 hours to Sydney. Then it's another 2.5 hour flight. He's been flying for 18 hours. I said, as soon as he gets to his hotel, he was in the same condo as we were. So as soon as he gets his condo, I knew what room he is. You let me know when you drop it off. So they let me know. I go up and I'm knocking on his door, and I'm like trying to do an Australian accent. Excuse me, mate, Mr. Martini, mate. And he's like, I go, I'm from the studio. You need to come to the. He's like, I'll come down in a couple hours. I go, no, you have to come now. The director wants to see you. He opens the door and he looks at me. He's like,
what are you doing here?
We're like, no, he was like, you look just like one of my best friends. And you're a freaking dumbass. Shut up. And he's like, oh my God. It's so funny. Yeah. It was a good time. We had a really good time, split that way. But the whole time on that show, the director used to be like, end up cutting all my friggin' acting scenes because I'm a terrible actor. No, I'm just kidding. But he used to go, oh, no. Freddie Joe, you go over here. Max, you come on this side. And we're like, what? He goes, you guys, we can't tell two apart from camera. And so they'd move us all around, like when all the officers were together and stuff. And I tease Max. I was like, see, make me your stunt double. I'll make you friggin' famous. Right. And he used to be like, oh yeah, whatever, And anyway,
did you end up ever doing it for him?
Well, a few years later, after the Pacific, or after the Great Raid. Sorry, I've done 100 plus shows. After the Great Raid, he gives me a call and he goes, hey, I'm doing this show called The Unit. It's about Delta Force guys, the unit and stuff. And he goes, I talked to coordinator. He says he knows your name, blah, blah, blah. I want you to come double me. And so the first thing I did, I come in, I did a thing where he falls down a hill, dislocates his shoulder, blah, blah, blah. And I tumbled down a hill, whatever. So it was easy. And the stunt coordinator was Troy Brown, which is one of my mentors. And Troy was like, man, you're a great double for him. Ended up all working out. But we were all sitting there at the end of the night, and we were back in the truck, and I just got a new truck, this big Ford, tall, lifted, and Max had his new truck, had little baby Texas tires on it, and I had big Wyoming tires on mine. It was all lifted up. And we were just sitting there, and while we were all sitting there talking, Troy was a bull rider. He's from Cheyenne, Wyoming. His riding partner was Ed Ritchie, who dated my sister at one time. So we were all like a tight-knit family. And Max is sitting there talking with the producers, came up and grabbed Max. And the day I did his stunt double, they came up, they bought the whole season for the unit. And since then, even now, I'm like, Max, you're like a big muscled up guy, but you're my stunt double. He's very loyal. So I've done a ton of, for 20 years, I've been in stunt double. And now he's a director. So I stunt coordinate the movies because I'm too fat to be your stunt double.
So you did one. What was it? Was it Troy or Alexander? I
did Alexander. Yep.
Yeah, you did Alexander, and you were you look just like him too. Yeah,
Colin Farrell stunt double.
Colin Farrell stunt double. Yeah. So they fired the English guy because he couldn't get along with an Irish guy.
Well, they didn't fire him. They just had he stayed there. He did a bunch of stuff as well, but we had like all kinds of film units going. But I became his primary stunt double on that.
Well, you look just like him. I need to go back and post the picture in the comments, but you look just like him. I thought, wow, I let my hair grow, and they dyed it blonde. And the funny thing was on that show, I've never had. My brother has 4 eyes. He's got portholes like bad, like thick portholes. You know what I mean? And me, birth control.
birth control glasses. He's always had the big porthole, thick glasses, and me, I've never had to have glasses until I was 50. Then I'm like, oh, I need reading glasses, but so and I can't even put eye drops in my eyes. But I go on Alexander, and when I became his double, I had taught him and trained him for like 5 weeks before he started the show to ride horses, and so I go over there and I was basically sent out with Captain Dye, but I was on the stunt team, but Captain Dye got me the job. I was there to train all the cavalry and everybody around him. Oliver Stone asked me to reinvent this thing called the diamond formation that Alexander used, which was like this big great, which I did. I did a really good job at it. I have to pat myself on the back for that. But
look good.
It really did work good, and I'm surprised it did. But it worked because there was a real language barrier. So when I started using hand and arm signals. Let's just stop talking to each other.
Where were you?
In Morocco. And
okay.
so I use like, this and that with flags. And, for like 3 days, they weren't even allowed to ride horses. So it was all about on foot let me talk to you in my language. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is a wedge. This is a diamond. This is, I did all this stuff and it ended up working really well. But the funniest part about that was they're like, hey, Freddie Joe, I had long blonde hair. They came in, dyed my hair. I had let my hair go. I was told let my hair go 9 months before, so my hair grows fast. So it was like I already had long hair, and they dyed mine just like Collins.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, we're going to send you to this optometrist, and we're going to get you some contacts." And I'm like, "No, you're not." They're like, "Yes, we are." I was like, "Good luck. You better bring a lot of people in there. You're not touching my eyes, right?" So anyway, I don't know how many people they had. They had enough, but they come in. They did all this laser stuff. They got my things down. My first day on set, they had like 12 makeup and, all these artists in there hold me down. They get these things in my eyes to make my eyes brown like Collins.
Right.
And I did that for 3 days. So on the fourth day, I was out I did this whole thing and I was riding and I was handing off my spear, whatever. And I was doing the thing. The dust was going. I had 80 horses around me. We're doing our thing. And I get done and the stunt coordinator is a great stunt guy. His name's Gary. Anyway, his brother did Band of Brothers. So Gary was like, his wife, Nikki, comes up. She goes, "You look amazing." I was like, "Oh, thank you, Nikki." Being the only American stunt guy on the team, that's the first time anybody said anything nice to me. And I was like, "Oh, well, thank you." And she goes, "You remind me of that dog." And I'm like, well, "Excuse me?" And she goes, "Yeah, you got one brown eye and one blue eye." I was like, "What?"
Oh, the contact came out?
Yeah, the contact came out all day. I'd been riding around with one brown and nobody noticed.
Right.
Gary Powell was the stunt coordinator. Sorry. And so from that point on, I never put him in again.
They never even noticed.
They spent $3,000 for eyes on me, and I never used them. like
you could tell you have blue eyes from a quarter mile shot.
If they can see that, we're screwed.
Right. So Alexander, what was who would you say is your favorite actor that you've worked with or actress?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I mean, who's your favorite? Not that you were like, because I know initially when you get into the situation, you're meeting guys, you're like this, but then after you get to know them,
Willie Nelson is the only person I've ever done that to.
Yeah.
Well, on 13. No, sorry, Wag the Dog. Sorry, man, I worked too many shows. Wag the Dog. I met Willie Nelson, and I was like, I can't talk. He was the only one ever, the only actor ever.
Would you sign my breast, sir?
Exactly.
I'll never wash it again.
Yeah, I couldn't hardly talk, which is amazing for me because I am my mommy's son.
Yeah. I know your mom's on here, so say hi, Mom.
Oh, hi, Mom, because that woman can talk. Trust me, she's awesome. My favorite one of my favorites is Samuel Jackson, and it's not necessarily because we had a big personal. I mean, I got spy games because of him because I threw him in the pool, which I think I told you that story. Right. But we got done training on rules of engagement, and I had trained him, and he, as a young platoon commander with his platoon. And we've been out in the field for 4 or 5 days. And just the fact, in fact, I tell every movie I do, even as a stunt coordinator now, I tell the story. It's, we're leaving, we're coming out, we've been out in the field. Him and Tommy Lee Jones were walking, and of course, if you're ever on the shows, you got the public relations people, and you have a press corps, and you got an old press, a whole day of just all press. And it happened to be the day we got out of boot camp training. And all the young Marines and special ability backgrounds that had been out in boot camp with him in training, all their wives, that was the only day they were allowed to visit the show, because it was a closed set. So all the babies and the beautiful little kids and the moms and most of them are all young jarheads, young Marines, and they were all taped off like they were in prison. There was like police tape on the side.
You're special guys. You're over there.
Yeah. You guys are special ability, but stay away. And then, but we're all walking through, and I gave a little talk. Captain Dye gave his talk, and then here comes the public relations people. Are grabbing Sam and Tom. Oh, we gotta go see entertainment tonight, and all these people walking through. And I still remember Sam taking about 5 steps and looking over and seeing all the Marines he had just trained with and their families.
Yeah.
And he stopped and basically said, "I'll see you guys in 20 minutes." And they're like, "No, Sam." He goes, "I said 20 minutes." And he might have had an MF word in the middle there, because
I was going to say, I mean, that is his repertoire.
He gets paid for that, believe it or not, which he told me. He has literally stipulations in his contract. Every time he says it, he gets this much money. So anyway, what made him special to me is he walked over and he met all the families, all the kids. He was signing leaves and sticks and hats and everything. And I tell that story to especially the middle level actors, and I always try to tell them, don't believe your press, because this is what a real actor does. He's just like a great leader in the Marine Corps. He's just a guy that goes out there. He's great. He studies hard at what he does. He works his ass off, and he lives and breathes it, and he becomes who he is, and he never forgets who he was. And now, and Sammy's one of the best at that. Colin was really good too. And trust me, me and Colin Farrell, we had a mini Emil's go cold, signing autographs and taking pictures. And and he would sit there for hours doing it until it was done. And I've always appreciated guys. Brad Pitt's same way. Brad is amazing like that. He's very kind and outgoing.
Yeah, I know it comes with the job, but I know there's a certain point where people get pissed off about it. But I do appreciate the guys that, I'm walking through DFW airport and I run into somebody and I'm like, "Hey man, I know you." But of course I get away with a lot of crap because I'm in a pilot's uniform. So that gives you just a little bit, I don't know, status, but it's like, oh, you could be
they don't
pilot.
Want to get mad and crash their plane. That's what they don't want.
No, they always want free ticket. It's funny. All right. I did a movie. Marshall Teague is a buddy of mine, lives down the road. And he was, Marshall, he was in, Roadhouse and Armageddon, bunch of movies. Yeah. So Marshall calls me up. And goes, hello. Oh, I will.
Navy SEAL Marshall Teagues.
Marshall calls me up and goes, "Hey, you got to call this gal. You could be an extra in this movie I'm in called Amerigeddon." I'm like, "Well, I'm not doing anything next week." "Yeah, sure. Why not?" So I go call this lady and do a headshot or whatever. And I show up and they want me to wear Army uniforms. And I'm like, "Nah, screw that. I've got my Marine Corps digis. So I'm wearing my green digis because I have all the cold weather gear. I've got the green digis with cold weather and the whole 9 yards." And I end up meeting this Army first. I think he was Sergeant First Class, retired. Carlton. He had just was doing an extra, and we're with all the other extras, and they just heard about it and signed up, and they're getting paid $8 an hour or whatever to do this movie. And we're the only two with military experience. So we're giving them M16s. We're showing them, okay, let's do this. And we're going to do a patrol and you're going to do this and whatever. And it was kind of funny because they told us, don't talk to the talent. You don't talk to the talent. And because it was the girl from Starship Troopers, the one that did the shower scene. I can't remember her name.
Denise Richards, Dina Meyer or Denise Richards?
No, it wasn't Denise Richards. It was that other girl.
Dina Meyer.
So I think she was in it, and a bunch of other people. But Marshall would come hang out and talk to all the guys and just sit there and shoot the bull. When I was in the Navy in Vietnam, it wasn't as cold as it, and it was cold. We were in South Texas shooting this, and it was pretty cold. But I enjoyed that stuff, man. There was a lot of hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
But what was your favorite? I mean, as a Marine, what attribute did you bring to this job that, the one thing that you could say from your Marine Corps training career? Bill Benson might say it was when you were a troop handler, but
yeah,
what do you think you brought?
Well, by the way, Marshall Teague was in Rough Riders, by the way. So that's where
that's right. He was, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the attributes I brought from the Marine Corps to the film business, which was, and I'll put it like this: when I first started in the business, everybody used to tell me you can't do that,
Right.
or you're too old, or and I always said, why? So if I was the kind of guy that they're like, oh no, you can't, and I'd like knock on the door and Spielberg's in there. I was like, hey, Miss Spielberg, how you doing? You need to put me in this movie right here. I was that guy, and they were like, oh, you can't do that. And the Marine Corps gave me the confidence to do that. It was always, and there's one thing like I tell every, when I'm tech advising, I tell every actor I've ever tech advised, from Russell, from Brad Pitt to Samuel L. Jackson to, any of the new guys I've done, Max Martini. And I always tell them this: I have been you. I can be you. Anybody can be you, but you will never, ever be me.
Right.
So you need to pay attention and learn. And if you're good at your trait, you will listen and you will soak up everything I'm fixing to teach you. And it's always worked. And that's one thing about the Marine Corps did, especially having a wide variety. I mean, I being a bullet sponge, a grunt, and then also being an instructor and also a troop handler and so on and so forth. Every one of those have really helped me out in the film business. One, I can get up in front of 500 people. I don't give a crap who they are. Right. And I will teach them, and I will teach them better than they've ever heard. During this period of instruction, you're going to learn this, and when I'm done, you're going to do that. And I always tell a good joke, and it's not politically correct. Trust me, I'm very known for not being politically correct. Two, just as we talked earlier, I don't really give a shit who they are.
Yeah.
Because they're not me, and they're not you, and they're not anybody else that's ever worn a uniform. So you don't put your pants on like I do. I put my pants on 2 legs at a time because I'm a friggin' United States Marine. You have to do it 1 leg at a time because you don't understand, because you're a dink, a dumb individual with no knowledge. Period. I teach you, and you go into that. Even Brad, when I first met Brad, Brad Pitt, it was years ago. It was my first film I did by myself, and I'm tech advisor. This movie called Spy Games. And I walk in, Mr. Scott, Tony Scott, God rest his soul, was like, he's a very hyper guy, and he's the greatest filmmaker I've ever met. And he's like, Freddie Joe, we don't want to piss him off, but I really want that enthusiasm you got. But, he's doing this stuff. And I'm like, yes, sir. I'm fine. I just want to meet him. And he's in the makeup trailer, and I walk in. And he rolls around. And Tony's like, hey, Brad, I want to introduce you to the military tech advisor, Freddie Joe Farnsworth. And Brad's like, hey, dude, really nice to meet you. And I'm like, that was it. And he goes, oh, am I supposed to say something? And I just sit there and stared at him. And Tony kept talking, get done. And as soon as he gets done, and Brad's like, and trust me, he's a really nice man, very professional, and a great actor. He's good at what he does. And honestly, in my head, I'm like, I get it. This guy is probably the most beautiful man I've ever seen in my life, but I'm not letting it on to that. So I'm sitting there going,
you got a man crush.
No, I don't. But I don't get man crushes on anybody. But I got it. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, this is that star, that glowing factor that everybody's always talked about. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm looking at him, and then finally Tony Scott goes, okay, Freddie Joe's going to tell you what you're going to do. And he's petrified, Tony Scott. He's just petrified what's going on. So I'm going to take him out for 2 days and beat the shit out of him. And so we're sitting there, and Tony and Brad sitting there, and goes, oh, okay. So Tony's like, okay, Freddie Joe, what are you going to do? And I go, okay, what I want to do is you're going to get done with this. 1800, you're going to meet me, this, blah, 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 went through the whole spiel. And I get done, and he goes, and then we turn around, and I go to walk away with Mr. Scott, and he goes, okay, man, thanks, man. And I just turn around to the old Marine Corps thing, and I just said, I effing know it's okay because I just effing told you. And he was like, Oh,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No, his exact word was, "Oh shit, I better get in the middle of this right now." And I'll tell you what, he was like spot on, straight up, ready to go. And I do that with all my actors. I always make them earn my respect, and they almost all of them do. Even the ones I fight with, I've had a couple that were like, I was like, okay, well, let's go over here and take care of it. We'll
Let's go behind the woods. Let's go behind the woodshed.
Let's do the back 40, as we call in the Marine Corps. You want to go? Let's go. And usually 99.99999% of the time, they're like, oh, wait, you stood up to me? Nobody ever stood up, But it's a 2-week boot camp or a 1-week boot camp or a 3-day boot camp. I always tell them, I don't tell them nothing until they earn their respect. I always break them down just like the Marine Corps. I break them down, and then I bring them up. And I bring them up by being men or being women. Yeah, I've trained women, and I don't give them a breaks either. World War Z, I wore those ladies out for the idea. You got to earn it. You're wearing a uniform of the world's greatest human beings, and you are going to earn it.
That's awesome. If I remember, I've got to go back now. Ron Livingston in Band of Brothers did a little documentary. Are you in that? I can't even remember. I got to go back and watch that on YouTube.
Ron Livingston Diaries is what it's called. Yeah. It's all me.
So how was it with those guys?
Well,
your time, longer boot camp, was it?
Well, it was a good long. I mean, Captain. We were out there for 7 months, but it was probably a 2-week long boot camp. It was good. It was hard, very hard for them. I came in very strong. Probably some of the most amazing actors I've ever met and ever known, and they were incredible. But I wore their ass out.
Did you ever get any of them break down and cry?
Oh, every show. If somebody don't cry, I get pissed off at myself.
Scott Gibson.
Oh, the old Canadian commie on the Pacific.
Oh, we're gonna have some fun with Scott in a minute. Hold on a second.
Oh, let's bring it.
I tell you what, I'm gonna surprise you here. Guess who I got? There we go. Look at that guy.
Look at that. Hey, get your bitch pin, bitch.
Can you hear us?
He's Canada. No. They don't have modern technology up there.
Can you hear us now? Oh no. Oh no. Scott, we can't hear you, man.
Plug in your internet.
Turn your mic on. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at my very first guest, Scott Gibson. Oh, I heard something.
Oh,
are you there?
It's this American site,
Oh.
Hey, get your bitch, bitch.
What was his nickname? What did you call him?
That's the scariest thing I ever heard in my life.
Yeah, that's cum junkie.
Was that his nickname?
No, it was like Dick Licker was most of the time. I couldn't get him off I could get out Stokey's tent.
Well, the first time I saw you was before boot camp.
Well, you're only human. Of course, you were looking for me.
No, but so listen when arrived in Australia, and first few days before boot camp, and I think it was the night before or day before, I was walking into town, and you were going for a jog. Past, I used to run to the bar.
I used to run to the bar every day. It was like 3 miles. Yeah.
But Freddie's running down the road, and I'm walking into town, and they had pictures of us, like who was showing up and everything like that. And I'm just walking into town, and this dude is jogging by me, and he just looks at me and smirks.
Another actor.
And I'm going,
another guy I got to beat up.
Yeah, that motherfucker is really going to drag my ass for the next fucking 7 months.
I appreciate it.
But
I really appreciated you because you made it very easy to find stuff to yell at. It wasn't like, some actors just locked on, ready to go. But as soon as I seen you, I'm like, oh my God.
he doesn't understand Marine sarcasm.
That's so unfair.
I'm kidding. You were amazing. You were wonderful. And you still are to this day. Except for you're Canadian, but I'll deal with it.
Well, the better country up north.
Yeah, you're like my gay brother. That's what I always look at it like.
Do you know what?
Oh, so you wouldn't be a stuntman for me?
Oh, I would. I'd make you famous like everybody else.
Like I told him the very first interview I had.
Wait, I can't hear Mitch now.
Oh, can you hear me?
Must be the ice storm, Mitch.
I don't know, man. It's the graphics.
Mitch, do you know how to operate this?
No, it's user error on the other end. Because we're all having a conversation.
It's great.
Here we go like that.
Oh, so Freddie and I'll just have a chat then.
Oh yeah, Tom Cruise is looking for an actor to be in his next movie.
Well, I told you.
Hey man, no,
Scott
listen.
this.
Oh wait, he's saying something here.
Well, hey, I'm getting interrupted here.
Is it mom or dad?
His internet died because he.
No, it's actually my mom. She wanted to point at something. I don't know what it is, but she's. Yeah, so she's pointing out that Hal Dane.
Oh, Hal Dane. She's pointing out Hal Dane.
Yeah, Hal Dane. Thank you, Mom. Appreciate it. I'm using my parents' Wi-Fi. If you guys didn't catch that at the beginning, because the ice storm knocked out all of our internet down on the other side of the area here in Fort Worth. But he's got Hal Dane written down there, and my mom's going, "You're calling him Scott Gibson." That was the character's name that he had in the Pacific. And like I told Scott, he really did a great job as a Marine officer. And I know it was because of you and Dale and the other guys that you had. But thank you so much because of what you did, Freddie Joe, made him look really great.
Oh, well, thank you.
Honestly,
to be honest, just like any other Marine would say, is I really don't know what I did other than learning. I try to learn each one of their characters and mold and mend them to those characters as best as I can. But other than that, all I know how to be is a Marine. I brought in the cadre for the Pacific, and I brought guys like Sean Bunch and Robert Garcia and Bruce Whitfield. Bruce was still in the Marine Corps. We got him special duty, so we got him special leave so he can come over for 6 weeks. And that was the other gunny that Scott was talking about in his interview. And as well as he's my best friend. He's been my best friend. He was in 1-7. He was also at MCT with me. And we just know how to be Marines. But I remember the first day when everybody's coming in, they're like, especially Sean Bunch, because, Angle Co, he's a big muscled up guy, and he's running around. And I just basically told him, I'm like, just follow my lead. And, get on the bus. Somebody's got a box. I think there's a bicycle in the middle of the bus, and all the guys are sitting there, and people are laughing because we're all in our World War II uniforms. I got the Stetson on, and I just friggin' kick the friggin' bike, and it goes flying, hits somebody in the head. And I'm like, get the fuck off my fucking bus, and just start screaming. And every one of those that were Marines, it instantly kicked in, and they were like, oh, yeah. and they just instantly locked in and went into their stuff, especially like Bruce. He was at School of Infantry as a troop handler, and also MCT as a troop handler in a different thing. So he was ready, really well ready for how it works. And it's like everything, when I did World War Z, I had to teach IDF troops, how IDF works, and then I have to teach, Russian troops. I had, part of it, even though I got to teach them how to be Russian troops, and the whole basis. And that's one thing Captain Dye taught me, was a long time ago, is the basis. He goes, don't worry about that stuff. I can read and research it and understand it different than the normal person. So even though it's not a Marine, it's a Army Ranger, I can read and understand what it is, and then put the heart and soul of the warrior inside that character and make him look like a warrior, because we're all the same, whether we're a squid or whether we're a Coast Guard or we're a doggy from the Army or a flyboy or a jarhead. Something made us go in the military, and we had to earn that uniform. We had to earn that rank, and that is the same with all of us. The training is just different. So I just take the training different. And the same thing with actors. Haldane was different than Sledge, and Sledge was different than Lecky. So we kind of milked every one of their characters into the direction that they are. If they're a great leader like Haldane was, we kind of give him the answers to the question, let him sit in the bitch tent, and all that stuff. And then, he gets to do his stuff. But if he's a shitbird, we don't give him any answers. In fact, we give him all the wrong answers. So even in boot camp, he's running around making a fool of himself, and everybody's like getting pissed off at him because I'm going to thrash the shit out of you because he's a stupid ass. But we do that, and before they know it, they're the character that they are, and they don't understand that. And then we also, one of the things is we give them little leadership and mentor them and in that different style of life, because you spend time in the Marine Corps, and Haldane spent a time playing a Marine. And you already understood that each person and each leadership is different, and we can never emulate each other. One of the worst things I see is people try to emulate you. I tell my guys, don't do it like I'm doing it. Do it like you would do it, because they come in, they try to be like me, and great actors like Scott go, he's full of shit, because they don't understand it. I'll be me, you be you, and let's come to this eventual goal. And that's one thing the Marine Corps taught me a long time ago. As a great squad leader, I don't have to be the best machine gunner. I don't have to be the best grenade launcher. I don't have to be the best rifleman. I don't have to be the best navigator. I just have to know a little bit about all of it and bring all the best people together and lead them. That makes a great squad leader. Hey,
Scott, are you back on yet?
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yeah. You sound like you're having a shower.
I just want to be on here to hear the same abuse that I got in like boot camp and everything from Freddie.
Oh,
Freddie, give him the knife hand. Give him the knife hand. Go for it, man. Get out!
All this thing. Shut your face now!
I didn't, bitch. But there were listen. As you know, there are certain actors that had a real problem with that, right?
Oh, and yeah, I loved it.
That's not something that, yeah. Of course you did. But they took it personally, anyone that would have a problem with it, in that sense that, like, I just thought, hey, man, these guys know exactly what they're doing. And you don't get any of that kind of training in a film from a director or a writer or anything like that. And you have the opportunity to work with people who walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And I was still, I was 38 at the time, 37, and I a bit beaten down per se in terms of physically. Like a lot of these guys are 10 years older than me, but I had no problem with the discipline and what these guys were trying to do, and it was all for the betterment of how you portrayed your role. And
did you guys treat him differently?
A few people have a problem with that.
He was an officer.
Man, that was the best training you could fucking get, and I loved it, man. Even Dick Licker.
Now, Freddie, did you guys train him different as a cadre because he was an officer, or like Lieutenant Winters and those guys?
I can't hear talk.
Well, Mike Stokey did.
Repeat the question for him so he can hear.
He's asking if we treated you different than everybody else, or no, I basically
you did in boot camp for sure.
Well, I didn't, but Mike Stokey did. I didn't.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't. Well, I would lace his ass out because I would definitely make him cry if I really wanted to. But the point was, his character, Haldane, every book and everything I read about Haldane, was one thing he was a troops leader. He was a troops leader. He was the guy they looked up to. And, they could talk to him about things. Everything I read was that. So, Scott's character wasn't coming in as a young private that didn't know what the hell he was doing, and you got to get up the freaking hill. Scott's character was the one that had to either spank him or rub him and tell him his mama loved him. He was that kind of leader. So basically in training, Mike Stokey kind of took him under his wing, and I was on the outside and Gunny Whitfield, and we just basically we messed with him so he got respect for the enlisted or the staff NCOs. We went at him. Of course I did, because I like to talk shit to everybody, but we went at him a little bit for that. But yet we wanted to show him what these junior enlisted men went through that he was leading. And he really got to see that, because I wore, like Snafu, I wore, and me and Rodriguez, Barenthal, I wore Barenthal's ass out every day. He was the biggest crybaby I ever been around. I'm just kidding. No, but he is, but he got to see me and Whitfield getting after him when they messed up. We were going at him, and you would see him sometimes going, "Damn, I kind of feel sorry for that dude over there." Oh my God! And
did they give you limits? Did they give you lateral limits about, hey, look, man, there's a line you can cross or not? These are actors you could.
I learned that later. When I first started, I didn't know any better. I just wanted to kill everybody when I first started in the film, but I just hated everybody that wasn't me. And then it just, as it went, Cap died, like say Band of Brothers, there was a moment we're in boot camp, and we had these 4-story brick buildings that were World War II. And I got them all up. I'm always looking for the first one to make my point that I will kill you. And you're all going to die here. It was Twilight Zone. You're not really doing a movie. You're all here to die. And I'm looking for that one to prove that point. And it happened to be David Schwimmer lost his cover in between getting off the friggin' bus and putting his gear on his rack. 2 seconds. And he was my guy. And I was humiliating and breaking him down to nothing. And I get a call, and it's Captain Dyke. I'm like, oh, roger that. So I run over, and it had nothing to do with that, because I run over, oh, sorry, Captain, because Cap would bring me in sometimes. And he's like, oh, no, you're doing great. But Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks here, they want to meet you because they think you're hilarious. And I'm like, oh, hi. How you doing? Oh, go do it. So then I went back at him. And Donnie Wahlberg said it once. My dad went with me to the premiere Band of Brothers of France, and I took my dad. And he never really been out of the country, and he's an amazing man. He worked his ass off, worked on a ranch, was a cop, was a chief of police. Amazing human being. So I'm like, I'm taking my dad, and we're sitting on the bus, and my dad likes to have a few drinks, and Donnie, we're all having drinks, and they're on the bus. And I hear Donnie talking to my dad, and he goes, before Band of Brothers, I hired 3 Navy SEALs. Because my dad didn't know who the backdoor boys were, or what's their name? Whatever. The New Kids on the Block, whatever the heck they were.
Right.
My dad didn't know that. And my dad's just like talking to him, and he's like, I paid for 3 Navy SEALs that trained me for 6 weeks, and I was ready, and I was going to show these Marines. And he said, it took your son exactly 3 seconds to break me. I was broke. I never want him to yell at me. I didn't want to do anything but please him for the whole movie. And it was the greatest compliment I ever got.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah. And it's, that's all you can do. And it's just try to make them the best. You know, I tell a lot, like I just did right before the COVID thing, I taught a bunch of young stunt performers that went out and helped teach them with Robert Garcia and Chad Bennett. He's Army Ranger and a former Marine, Purple Heart Marine, and Algin Menendez, you know, all Marines. And they got all these stunt guys together, and I went and trained them. And I sit in front of them, you know, me being the old guy now, I'm sitting in front of them. And I said, look, I'm going to tell you all this. You might, just like the actors that Scott was talking about that didn't like it. But people pay me a shit pot of money to teach them what I'm fixing to teach you. So if in this business, as Scott will tell you, if you want to be successful at something, you better learn every ounce of it. Because trust me, I know you were saying, oh, he's a big actor. I've done a lot of these stuff. I shit my pants the first time I was on camera. And I played myself. And I what these people do to be able to walk, talk, remember lines, and conduct themselves. And that's one thing I would tell Scott is what we did is we took holding a weapon, holding our equipment, and carrying ourselves. We made that to where they didn't have to think about that anymore. Because if they showed up on set and they had never done it, they would have to remember their lines, remember where they were at, remember what they were doing, remember what their left eyebrow did. Plus, where was their weapon? How is it doing? How did it hold it? Where's the gear? And oh my God, it's heavy and I can't do it. These guys got to set and the crew were like, these guys are amazing because they did. Yeah. They look like they just came off of Guadalcanal or Saipan or Iwo Jima. They looked like it because of the training that they did, and it's phenomenal. And to not take the training that we do at 100%, you're never going to be a good actor. Just like I told you about Samuel L. Jackson or Brad Pitt, and Scott Gibson, all the great actors of the world. They go in at 100% and they suck every ounce. And that's one thing I tell the guys I work for that work for me, and they're all former military guys. I'm like, don't you dare half-ass anybody because their acting will be half-ass if you do. Because great actors, they suck it up, man. Just like, it's just the way it is.
Well, as a Marine, you're teaching and you're in front of people. You've got to put up. You'll have to
interpret for me there, Freddie. I can't hear.
I will. He's just talking. He's talking to his people, not yours. Hold on.
So as a Marine, when you're standing up in front of people, you've got to put on an act. You're talking one way in front of folks, and it becomes sort of an act. I could see transitioning over to be an actor be kind of fun. Because we do it all the time. There's a certain way that you would give a brief in front of the general or the colonel, or give a safety brief in front of your troops,
Right. Yeah, what he's talking about, Scott, is even as a Marine, you have to almost like act because, you're in front of generals or your troops or stuff, you act differently. And, the motivation and the level has to be differently. And, he is correct. This is one thing I'm well known for, though. Taco and Scott will probably. I give a shit. I was like that in the Marines. Colonel Mattis would tell you, I am who I am, and you're going to get what I got, and that's just the way it is. And that's why I was never a lieutenant colonel or a captain or a sergeant major, because if it came down to what my mama taught me, Brenda Farnsworth, that's more important than anything I ever learned. And it was to speak my mind, to say what I know, and to be who I was. And who I always was, even though I wasn't, but every Marine should always think that they're the baddest mother ever walked the face of the planet. And I always believed that. And nobody was ever going to tell me different, whether he was a lieutenant colonel or especially a second lieutenant. And I was, and I could show you an SRB, my service record book that will explain all the page 11s. And I use the same thing in the film business. If you don't want my opinion, don't ask me, because I am going to give you my direct opinion.
Sure.
If you're good, I'll cry with you and hug you and tell you I love you. And if you suck, I will tell you that's the shittiest performance I ever seen in my life. and you will never get anything different.
Look, any of those shows like Band, the Pacific, I can't imagine them. I can't imagine them without the training and dedication that you have, that Dale. It just a world of difference. I always had the utmost respect, even if I disagreed. I just wanted to learn, and I was in the other, shorter boot camp and everything. I wish I was in the longer one. I never expected to go in there and you'd, pamper me or anything like that. And you guys, I was in command with you, and you and Bunch and Whitfield didn't talk to me at all. But that's how it is. Yeah, I know, but that's what gave me, it's like, okay, so I understand the ranks.
You had to earn our respect.
Hey,
the division,
Freddie Joe,
did you earn it?
Pull any?
You wouldn't even allow me in some of the bigger drills. The big push-up line that everyone was doing.
Well, we didn't want you to get broke. You were pretty sensitive. They don't have very strong people in Canada. We knew.
No, but it was great, and I'll tell you what, and that when we graduated and you gave me the Eagle Globe and Anchor, and I had that tear in my eye.
Oh yeah, you cried like a bitch. It was awesome.
Well, I didn't cry like a bitch. I had a tear. In my eye. I had to go to the can. I hadn't gone to the can in 3 days.
Yeah. It was an honor to salute you. Let's put it that way. You earned it.
But the first scene that I did, that I was on camera with the tank trap, and I'm all geared up, and I had the rubber fake 45 in that shoulder holster that Haldane never had, and I hated that shoulder holster because it was such a pain in the ass. Like, I can't imagine someone would run around with a shoulder holster
like this one.
And yes. But you ran up to me. You ran up just before we filmed, and you had the real 45, and you took out the rubber one. You said, "Here's a real one. I'll make you famous."
Absolutely.
and then you ran off. But that's sort of, I can't imagine. I just can't imagine doing anything like that without that sort of training and respect and discipline and everything that you guys had for it. I mean, it just that's what made it, to me, what it was, because it just wouldn't have been the same without it.
Hey, Freddie, did you guys play any tricks on them? Pull any pranks?
Wow,
Pull any pranks?
I've done so many. He's asked me if I pulled any pranks, Scott, or if we pulled any pranks on everybody. And yes. I mean, I don't know. I can't
Freddie,
remember. No, I'm no day goes by without laughter in my life, especially on set. Yeah, I pull pranks all the time, and I mean, I can't tell you exactly which ones I pulled. Probably in the 25 years I've been in this business, I've probably pulled 8 million pranks.
No, but on those guys in boot camp, did you steal their weapons or something?
I would steal their weapons. There's not a weapon. There's not a film I've done where I haven't got somebody's weapon while they were sleeping. But by the third day, you go in there and the sling's wrapped around them and they're hugged up on it and making love to Sally. Do those things. And I tell a lot of people that, people ask you, oh, what the Marines, what is this and this, that, and I tell them, I said, we sound like this because there's no right answer. Our whole job is for you to be wrong so I can wear your ass out. So everything I do is a prank in one way or another, go ask, hey, go up and ask Captain Dye for some black smoke, we get the operation tonight, or, go get some flight deck paper from Stokey,
get 50 yards of flight line.
But there was I don't know if this was conscious in any of the cadre's mind, but I always felt that there was a certain respect for Haldane, the man.
Yes.
Not me, the actor, being like, you deserve any sort of special treatment or anything like that. But when I went to Camp Pendleton for their School of Infantry Warriors graduation, any of the Wounded Warriors nights, R.V. Bergen's funeral, a level of respect to the man that I did not earn in any way, shape, or form, but am the proudest and most respectful to portray as one of the best and greatest moments of my life in portraying someone like that. And you always, and the cadre, showed me the greatest respect, and I appreciate that so much, man. You guys were, I mean, still gave me shit and all that, which I loved, but
and deserved.
That, part of that whole story with the Pacific and the show and everything, to not think Haldane would have been a bigger part of it in terms of who he, was one hell of a Marine.
Yeah.
And those boots were really big to fill. And you and Dale and everyone helped me to fill them to the best of my ability. And God bless you, Freddie. Thank you for that.
No, bless you for
That's
giving
awesome.
it a hundy. None of us, and I'll tell you this as a Marine, Scott. The Marine Corps is the biggest armed forces in the world that study, believe, and almost religiously our history. So it wasn't just Haldane. It was, it's just like I can't remember his name, the actor that played Chesty Puller. In boot camp, I wouldn't allow anybody to call him Chesty Puller. I made everybody call him Richard Puller until he earned and he worked his ass off. And let me tell you, he pulled it off. And he told me, hi, Ashley. He told me that one of the greatest moments in his life was when in the premiere, I think when we were in the Roosevelt Hotel, I think was the premiere at the party. And he walked up to him and I said, and I gave him the whole spiel about being Chesty Puller. And I said, you pulled it off. You did a great thing. And he started bawling because all he could remember was me calling him Richard Puller. And I just told him, I said, you busted your ass and you studied and you paid it. William, help me out, Scott. What's his name? William. Was a great
Who was
actor.
Chesty?
Yes. Anyway,
yeah.
He's a great actor.
He played the dad in The Green Mile. I just remember him from The Green Mile, the two girls that were murdered.
He's a great actor. He's been around forever. And he just said it was the most, for you to call me Chesty Puller, saying that I pulled off, of course, to every Marine Chesty Puller, we say goodnight to him every night. He's a legend, and you have to earn that right. Just like Haldane, you had to earn the right for me and Gunny Whitfield to actually give you that opportunity to play it. And you did. You busted your ass. And just like you said, the guys that there was a couple guys that I got to fight with for a year that didn't want to play the game because I'm the greatest thespian on the planet and I've been to the Oxnard School of, and they never got it. And one thing that is different by doing a film like that than doing any other film is just in America. I would say there's 60 to 70 million people who are either related to, have done, or know somebody that has served in combat, or a grandfather or something. And to disrespect a person that stands in line and says, I'm not going to die today, they're going to die today, and do everything they can to keep their buddies to the left and right alive. If you can't portray them to the fullest extent, you don't need to be in the acting business. You can't play a drug addict if you don't want to go look and see what a drug addict does. William Sadler, that was perfect. Thank you, Paula.
William Sadler, Marine, by the way.
Anyway, you can't play. I say this, and I'll put this to you like this with you, Taco. How would you like to have to get on a plane with a pilot who's never been to friggin' flight school?
Not going to happen.
Who's never seen what a cockpit looked like? Who's never understood anything about it? Why would an actor want to step on set and not step in the shoes of the person he's trying to portray? In my eyes, being around this business for 25 years, they don't last very long. Like I was talking to you earlier about Brad Pitt and Samuel Jackson. They are legit. They are give me every inch. Hey, I just Brad Pitt. I had to get him in charge of the sniper school in Camp Pendleton. Talking to and if I told him something or taught him something or had something that every night he would call the snipers and ask them, okay, yeah, you were right. I thought you were wrong. You were right. And if I gave him wrong information, he'd let me have it. That's what makes him one of the greatest in the business. And the attitude Scott had, that's why he's one of the greatest in the business. He will, exceed every chance he gets in a character, because you can't do things. I can't be a squad leader my first year in the Marine Corps. I have to go through and learn how to be a rifleman and a grenadier and an automatic rifleman and a team leader before I could ever think about being a squad leader.
Right.
Same thing as acting, and that's how it all works out for me.
But I just because I hope Taco can hear me. But when I went to RV Bergen's funeral, and my elder brother lives in Dallas, but through another friend who knew Martin McCann, who portrayed Bergen, and I met RV through Martin McCann, and then when Bergen passed, I just thought, man, I'm like I just felt I had to go. It was no actor thing. It was no like. I just have to go. I have to go, and to meet those people, all the people that were there, and a couple of members of his family that I'd spoken to before, and they were all very kind of reverential to me, just based on playing Haldane, which just blew me away. It absolutely blew me away. And those are the few opportunities, just in terms of being an actor, that you get to portray a real person like that, a real hero like that, an icon like that, where you're just, to me, absolutely blown away. And like I say,
I think
it was his internet. I tell you this, Freddie. RV Bergen asked me, I've known RV for years, and he goes, he talked like this, Colonel, when I die, I want you to give my eulogy. And I'm like, yeah, sure, RV, no problem. Colonel, when I die, you're going to give my eulogy. I'm like, yeah, okay, no, yeah, we got a long time. And I'm thinking, I don't want to give his eulogy. I mean, I'd be honored, but what do you say about a guy whose entire Marine Corps career was in a TV show that everyone's watched? I mean, it was incredible. And
it was so badass, everybody's seen it.
Yeah, and so, sure enough, his daughter calls me up and goes, hey, Taco, Daddy said that when he died, you were going to give his eulogy. And I'm like, oh, I thought he'd forget about that. So I'm up there, and there's, generals. There's Rick Perry, governor of Texas. Everybody's there. And then out of the crowd walks up Scott, and he gave me a coin from the Pacific, and he said, hey, I just want to say you did a great job, and I really appreciate what you did. And I'm going, wow, I remember you, man. You did an awesome job, because my very first, as not even a second lieutenant, I was in OCS, and we went to go see Aliens. You remember Colonial Space Marines?
Oh, yeah, Colonial Marines.
They were badass, right?
Let her be in charge.
Hey, man, does anyone ever mistake you for a man? Vasquez? No. How about you? But when we saw that movie, of course, the lieutenant turns out to be the typical, atypical, stereotypical dumbass lieutenant, and you just hate the guy. And it's like, I hate it when Hollywood makes those guys look out like the idiots. Because I know there's a bunch of us that are idiots, but I know there are a lot of really good guys too. Mm-hmm. And for what he did, Scott, in the TV show, it really turned out great, and it came across. So as a revered father-like guy that cared for his men, that really came across. And so I told him that I said, your training definitely did a fantastic job. So all hats off to you and Dale and all the guys. And let's see if he can hear us. Scott Haldane, can you hear us now? You still can't hear me, can you?
Can you hear him?
See, it's user error. Canadian Franz, man. Oh, you can? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen your whole house. You've been in every room in your house. It's pretty awesome.
You think you'd figure this out from the last time we did it? You started in the basement, you end up upstairs where the internet was.
He was probably in his brother's room in Texas, in America.
You know, Freddie Joe has no sense of humor. That's his one flaw.
That's true.
Hey, listen. All right. Paula had said I need to invite you guys to Skyball if we ever have it again. If we ever have this big deal, veterans-related charity deal, we have a big get-together. I definitely want to get you guys on the ticket. Randy Stillinger will hook you up and get you guys down here because it is a lot of fun. And that's how I first met Dale. Dale played General Patton. And then another year he came back and he was playing Colonial Marine. He was Henderson, I think, Archibald. And so when I called him up or I emailed him, I was looking at a picture of me and Dale standing next to each other. And I go, well, let's see. You got to be about $175, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, how'd you know? And I go, well, I'm looking at a picture of you. So I got
75, quit.
He was like $175, $180. So
Dale likes to play with a lot of things. Let me tell you that.
So I got him in Colonial Marine from Marines. Go ahead.
Did you get one of the coins from our 10-year anniversary, Freddie?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
You're gonna take care of that.
You got to send me where you are because I got a coin for you.
Oh, look
for
at
the 10-year.
The commie's trying to find my house. I on you. All right.
You want to? I'll show you my coin.
I just got a nice shotgun, so go on over. The brand new one is nice.
Well, I'm getting some tall tales with taco coins made up. So when I do, I'm going to be sending both of you guys one. We'll have them.
Whoa!
What is that?
Which one's that?
That's a Marine Corps one. You wouldn't understand, Simp.
Dick liquor.
That's a real one.
You bitch.
Did your parents have any kids that lived? That's all I want to know.
Hey, what college did you go to? I'll make sure I strike that off my son's wish list.
Exactly.
See, whoever's watching this is what I went through.
2 Marines bagging on you?
3 days.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? The thing is, when we went to film, because Freddie, you were on Red Unit, right?
I was on all the units. I was bouncing back and forth, yeah. But Red Unit
so I had
on that one.
Blue Unit. So Sergeant Bunch was my first sergeant on that. Just in terms of like anything we played in. Where's Bunch now?
He is a San Diego police officer.
Damn.
Oh, so we went from Marine Corps to PD?
He was in the film business for a long time. In fact, I did an episode of NCIS about a month ago, and I brought Sean out of retirement, and he went and worked on an episode with me for NCIS. But yeah, he's worked San Diego Police Department.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
So what do you have coming up? Do you have any good shows coming up that we need to look out for you?
I have, it's a slow year like for everybody. I have I just got a call yesterday. In fact, Scott, I don't know if you remember the Sparks family. They did all the webbing.
Yeah.
I got a call yesterday that Luke Sparks, he is directed to Rainfall, and then he's directed 2 really huge movies. Young kid that was one of the webbing on Pacific, and he called me yesterday. He's doing a pilot, and I'm going to go out in Australia in the summer and take advice as pilot for him. So
cool.
And then I got another show.
So you're gonna bring me, right? Technical advisor.
Oh God, no. You're not worth the freaking plane ticket as a ticket advisor.
No, that's when he comes to me and goes, "Hey, dude, can you give me a free ticket?" Commie.
Yeah.
You want everything for free.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, we're Canadian. I'm Canadian. What the hell? What do you expect?
No, a boot. You know.
Yeah.
Hey,
What's
man,
that
where's your toque?
What's that about, dude?
Hey, so like if I put a mouse in my beer, and I take it back and say I found this mouse in my beer, you'd like give me a whole case of beer for free, eh? Yeah.
Hey, hoser.
Hey.
Oh.
You see what great sense of humor we have here for people of lesser intellect?
Oh yeah, that's for sure. For sure. Hey, even though you live in an umbrella of freedom we give you, go ahead, keep telling the story.
What are you going for? Are you going for your dip there? Dip 30?
No, let's put my phone up there. I got a dip in already. What's
Wait,
you guys military? You guys military budget $12? Shut up.
Hey, listen.
What?
Well,
We don't have a.
Go ahead.
We don't have.
Go ahead,
we don't have anyone.
You don't have anyone.
Say again?
You don't have. Hey, you got John Candy. Come on. I mean, what a fine actor. I like John Candy. He was awesome.
He was awesome.
Did he do that Canadian bacon? Wasn't that John Candy?
Yeah. But then you got Jim Carrey that just screwed it all up.
Let's show his coins.
All right.
Wait a minute. Here you go, Freddie. You got this
Have
one?
your coin collection. Let me see.
He's moving around too fast,
yeah,
making me dizzy.
Slow down.
I think I'm going to puke.
Where's my camera?
It's in your face.
First
I know
AD,
that.
come on.
It's too slow, but that's the you have the Pacific one, right?
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, I got that one. First Marine Division on the front.
You got it on you right now?
No, I had to go up here to my other 150,000 challenge coins I've got from every movie I've worked on. But I can go get it if you want.
Look, I don't care how many you have or don't have. If you don't have this one in your fucking hand right now,
I got about 50 of them. I sold that one to you, Sim.
Hey, you know, we're still going to make
you.
We're still going to make you buy the beer. Come on.
You got one of these, Scott?
I asked you for one of those T-shirts and you turned me down. You said, "Oh, we don't send them to Canadians."
No, I do, but I couldn't figure out the half postage thing with the exchange of the money thing. I couldn't figure that out. I'm like,
hard.
This is the Freddie Joe I know and love.
I kept overpaying, and then we go to Russia and come back. I'm like, I wanted to go to Canada.
Here, I have one all wrapped up for you. It's not abused.
Is that the black one on the outside rim?
Yeah, it's from our 10th anniversary. Why
I might have one. I might have thrown it in there with my 10th anniversary Band of Brothers one and my 20th anniversary Band of Brothers one.
Hey Scott, where's your sand from Iwo Jima, Marine?
Oh,
where's your sand from Iwo Jima, Scott?
Where's it at, Scott?
That's in a special place.
I got some. I remember when I was in 17, I went to Iwo Jima and got me a little. They let us have. We could only take it was like a pill thing, like you put pills in.
Yeah,
that's all you could take off the black sand. I still got it out my sea bag.
Oh man, I've got. I mean, I spent 2 weeks there for the 50th anniversary, so I still have probably this much in a Gatorade bottle. 2
weeks on Iwo Jima?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, that's like being in Canada for 2 weeks. How in the hell did you? I spent 2 days there, and I was like, I gotta get out of here.
No, dude, you're not into caving, are you? I was into finding dead Japs.
No,
when I was in Okinawa, we had this guy. We had this guy. We met him at the O Club one night, and he's like, he's from Boston. He goes, "Hey, so what are you two doing tomorrow?" Me and this other captain, and Tom Voico, and oh, nothing, sir. And he goes, "Hey, we're gonna go look for dead Japs." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "The dead Japs all down here. We're gonna go find them." So he had this army book on the Battle of Okinawa, and we would go down there and drive around. He'd be giving us directions, looking at the ridge lines based off the photographs in the book.
In Okinawa?
And he would point us in Okinawa down there past Naha.
Uh-huh.
And so we would go into these farmers' fields looking. I'm looking for habus and stuff. Scott, these snakes, if they bit you, you're two-stepper. You're dead. And we get into the jungle, and you break into the jungle canopy, and friggin' spiders are dropping all over the place, and it's hot. And then we get in there, and he'd see this little indention in the ground. He goes, "Start digging here." And so we get our e-tools out, and we'd start digging. And we get a hole. You go into this thing, and it would go into the caves. And we go into the cave systems. And we'd find all the bones. It was there was nothing metal left.
You said Iwo Jima.
No, that's when I started looking for dead Japs.
Yeah, I know, but Okinawa. You said you spent 2 weeks in Iwo Jima. I was like, there's nothing on Iwo Jima.
Yeah, no, actually, quite a bit. So I spent 2 weeks. You didn't get to go do what we got to do. So we stayed there, and no. I mean, everyone goes to the beach, and they go to Suribachi. I've got my miner's hats. I mean, my headlamps. I've got all the caving stuff, and we'd go down into the caves, and that was kind of crazy.
Were you a civilian when you did this?
No. I was a Marine Corps captain. It was my last trip.
There you go.
With 152 when I was flying C-130s. And so we go down there and go look at find stuff.
You're a captain. I get it. Pulling rank on me.
Hey, I took my guys with me. I'm sorry you didn't have a good officer that would take you out and give you a tour.
Apparently, I had duty. Apparently,
I got a question. I got a question for Freddie.
Yes, sir.
Think about this for a minute.
Okay, you guys give me a question first.
Give yourself time.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, I know. So doing everything that you've done, consulting, film industry, and you do Band of Brothers, which phenomenal. But then to go to do the Pacific, was that any different being a Marine, or did you just think of it the same way? Because the Pacific, in a lot of ways, as a show, TV show, I mean, there was a lot there that could have happened, didn't happen per se, but in being a Marine and doing that, I'm just wondering if there was any different perspective from your part.
It was more. It was more personable to me because a lot of the characters in the Pacific were my religion in a strange way of putting it. Chesty Puller, John Bassalon. I mean, anybody's been to Camp Pendleton, you drive on Bassalon Road every day, Hal Dane, some of the other characters, even in the Pacific, Heartbreak Ridge, David Nutter, I got into a nice big old fight with Bruce McKenna, the writer, Bruce, executive producer. And before we filmed it, I'm blowing a gasket because I was in Suicide Charlie, and I'm like, this is where the guidon came from. The Suicide Charlie is, as Lieutenant Colonel knows, he'll tell you, it's the only unit in the Marine Corps that has two battle guidons, and Suicide Charlie has its normal guidon and it also has a second, and it's the only unit in the Marine Corps, and it started in Guadalcanal on Bloody Ridge, and Chesty Puller and so on and so forth, and it came from, and then historically, 2-7 and 3-7 had been overrun by these thousands of Japanese troops. As it was like 10,000 Japanese troops against 1,000 Marines, and and Charlie Company, somebody did a skull and crossbones on it, put Suicide Charlie and raised it, and it motivated them, and they saved the world. That's a part of Suicide Charlie. And I'm blowing a gasket because we're doing the scene with Basilon and everything, and I'm going, this is Suicide Charlie. This is where it came from. We have to have it in the show. And, of course, Bruce McKinnon was like, no, I'm smarter than you. I'm a writer. And Tony Toe and his infinite wisdom made Bruce fly back to the States and go out to 29 Palms and go to Suicide Charlie headquarters. And they basically said, yeah, Freddie Joe's right. So he came back. So it was very personal to me, like just to put, if you watch, that episode, I think it's episode 3, if I'm right. I'm sorry, I can't get all the episodes wrong. But you see Chesty Puller walk by and you see the big parachute cut up with skull and crossbones with Suicide Charlie on it. Spelt correctly. That was another argument because it was spelt correctly. In any, we're all about history. It didn't become incorrect until Vietnam. And they took it out into to Kenville, and they accidentally misspelled it. So Suicide Charlie became a misspelled Charlie. So all those things is more personal. Band of Brothers was like, I was young in the business. It was like the third or fourth show I'd worked on. And I was still learning the business. So Band of Brothers was more of just my military coming out. By the time I got to Pacific, I had worked on, 40, 50 films and TV shows, and I knew what I was doing. I knew what direction I was going, and so on and so forth. So, and Dale gave me more responsibility. He wasn't he wasn't all about, he's going to do everything. He's like, I trust Freddie Joe. He's going to go do all that, and he's going to run this and take care of that. So, so that was the difference in between the two films. Band of Brothers, I said this a long time ago, the difference between the two is, one, Band of Brothers followed one unit through the whole war, 4 or 5 years. Pacific followed 3 divisions. That's why there's a big difference, and it was harder for some people that weren't, in the Corps to really get involved into the Pacific. It's a wonderful, and I tell everybody, go watch it again. Watch it 2 or 3 times, because by the time you get the third one, you're like, this is a pretty damn good film. Because what happened was they tried to compare the Pacific so much with Band of Brothers, they didn't quite understand it, because you never got that, I know who Bull Randleman is, or I know who Garnier is, because I watched him from his paratrooper school all the way through until he died, or until he lost his leg and left. I know who Compton is, and I know, but in the Pacific, it was like, there's a bunch of green guys running across the airfield. There's a bunch of green guys running on the thing, and every once in a while, there's that funny guy that played that Queen dude or whatever. That's him right there. That's Sledge, or that's the Snafu, and oh God, that's that funny communist from Canada. That's that he's playing Halloween. They never really, unless you watch it 2 or 3 times, once you do that, you really get into the characters, and you start, when Haldane dies, just because you're here, you actually get emotional and attached to it, because you've seen all the ambiances of the Little Green Men before that Haldane was leading. When you first watch it, everything, the Pacific is just like the Pacific was. The world was exploding around us. And, there was never really that time where, like in the European theater, where they had downtime and they're out in the villages hanging out with the women and going back to Paris, France. No, they were either on ship or their ass was getting shot at like bullet sponges. And that, so you never really had that time in the Pacific for you to get that emotional love. But once you watch it 2 or 3 times, it's an amazing project.
That was my only complaint, because when the Band of Brothers came out, I bought an M1 Garand. I would sit there and clean the Garand while I was watching the TV show. My wife would be like, "You're nuts," but I enjoyed that. And then I was anticipating the Pacific, but it did get confusing, because if you skipped a week, you taped it, then you came back, it was you get lost. It was easier to get lost, because you're like, what unit am I following right now?
Yeah, which division am I with? And you would skip, go ahead, Scott.
Just in terms of the filming, and go into whatever sort of details that anyone wants or cares about, or with relation to Hollywood, there seemed to be more problems with the Pacific in terms of how they were going to portray it, and who and what. I mean, there were a lot of arguments on the production side of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of moving parts.
That were just sort of more of it, because I will tell you that the episodes that the directors, like what you shoot and what ends up becoming the final product could be completely different.
That's like that on everything you work on, isn't it?
So
well,
for that,
I'll tell you this,
so
you have to
for
look,
that, no, for that,
you have to look at it like this, Scott. You start getting into more of the business and political side of the aspect with that, and you look at the effects of the European theater of the world as far as the film business. That affected the film business. So when I put on a show about World War II and going through Europe, it's going to sell to all the countries that were involved, which was the world. When you look at the Pacific, you're looking at Japan, Australia, the Philippines, and not really that.
Right.
You're seeing two nations. So when you're looking at it on a business aspect, and that was a difference. And that was one of my fights all the time with Mr. McKenna, and all them, the old libs, I like to call them, the old Canadians, the liberals. Anyway,
Commie.
Anyway, that was my argument with them all the time, because when it came to the Pacific, they were trying to sell it to a different kind of audience instead of letting the greatest generation of the people that we all cherish, adore, and the reason why we walk this face of the earth, even you and me, Canadian and American, we walk because of that generation. They were trying to change it a little bit just because of to sell it and to get it to go somewhere other than like Band of Brothers. Band of Brothers, if you just told these guys how they were, it was going to make money. And if you did it right, it was going to make money, and it was going to be amazing. And it was done right, and it was amazing. The Pacific was done right, and it was amazing. But they tried, as you said, they tried to manipulate it a lot to try to get it to that audience a little bit more. You know what I mean? And plus, I think the Pacific, they bit off too much. The Pacific would have been better told in a 20 episode series instead of a 10 episode, and you could have spent 3 episodes just following Basilon, or 3 episodes straight just following Haldane. And originally you've seen some of these guys going actually through boot camp and going through their training and then moving on, but they cut a lot of those episodes out for to make it into a 10-part series. But you're absolutely right.
Well, I had a scene in episode 2 with Basilon, right, where they get bombed, raid the army, and I was in that, and then it was cut out.
I was there. I remember I was there when you filmed it.
Yeah. And
I pretty much told everybody because it was because of your acting, but
it was that huge because I did that musical number right in the middle of we were getting bombed, and that's why they cut it.
Oh, that's funny. I got a question for you here, Freddie.
I just seen. Did I visit the PO camp when I did the Great Raid? No, we just basically rebuilt the one, but we never went into the Philippines. The only place we filmed that was in Australia, in between Brisbane and Main Beach, and then so we built the camp there, and we actually trained the POWs. We spent like 5 days with the actors and put them in with the Japanese actors and special abilities, and we put them in a POW camp. Beat them around a little bit, didn't feed them, so it looked pretty real, looked really good. On the Great Raid.
Dealers of Death, good old JWT, Camp Swab, Hansen. Here's Garcia goes, Gibson.
Oh, there's Wally. Look at Wally. Look at Jaime. Come on, Wally.
Who is this?
That's my best friend, partner, United States Marine Robert Garcia, worked on the Pacific.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, he was the first Don't
Garcia.
Ask, Don't Tell Marine.
Hey, shout out, because he rescued my ass in Poto, and he didn't even know who I was.
Really?
Yeah, there was some big fight at a bar there. Well, not a fight, an almost fight, and the whole like cast and crew that were there at the Iron Bar stopped, and these few guys walked off, and then these guys went around town looking for someone to beat up, and I was escorting a young lady back to her backpackers.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And Garcia rolls up in this van, and he's like, "Haldane!" And I'd never worked with him. I was like, "Wow!" Went up. It's like, "Get in."
That was my van, by the way.
You weren't in there.
I know. I was at the bar.
You said, "Bitch, walk home."
I was at the Iron Bar.
No,
still.
But to their credit, obviously, like Freddie knew me before I knew him, and Garcia. Like, I mean, these guys knew. I mean, they weren't there just for a paycheck and to look good and kind of make a movie. They were there to
a lot of things.
Respect them. A lot of things, but well, a lot of things we won't talk about right here. But the respect for the Marine Corps and everything they did, like it things like that. I don't know if people understand film wise. It just, I've done a lot of stuff, and it just would never be the same without people like that. With Freddie and Dale and Garcia and Bunch and Whitfield and the impact. There'll be some people that doesn't resonate with, and that's cool. But I could never imagine going through that experience.
Well, guys, we are almost a full-length feature movie right now at 2 hours, and I just got a text from my wife saying the power is out again at the house. So I've got to go back and light some fires and get the dogs warm. But, gentlemen, I can't thank you both enough for coming out and joining us. I hope everyone enjoyed this. You get the little background information and a little find out some tidbits that you just normally want to get. Anything you want to send your folks to? Any charities that you want to promote? Freddie Joe, anything that you...
my major charity is called Our Heroes Dreams. They deal with TBI and PTSD, and it's 100% charity. So yeah, that's the main charity that I deal with all the time. So
now, when are you going to write a book?
Who, me?
Yes.
Well, if I could
Freddie
write,
can't spell.
Yeah. Yeah. Every time I try, the crayons run out about 58. They go out really quick.
And
I don't know.
There's too many F-bombs.
No, I think not. Shut your face.
Look at that.
Yeah, he's dropping F-bombs on camera.
I'm dropping F-bombs. So you need to write a book, Freddie. You need to write a book starting kind of chronological. I mean, there'd be some great stories. You'd have some awesome stories.
It'd be about 100-episode movie.
Yeah. Well, how about you? How about you, Scott? Anything you wanna throw out?
Well, I mean, because I'm sure a lot of the audience, but Wounded Warriors for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the Freddie Joe Farnsworth future incapacitated.
Yeah, I'm gonna get shit faced.
There's just so much to say there.
As soon as I heard your voice, I had my girlfriend go out and got a bottle of whiskey. I was like, "Yo, get me a bottle of whiskey." I'm about to throw up. Gotta listen to this.
Well, guys, Freddie, I got to send you that coin though, for sure. For the 10th, anyways. You got to add that one to your collection, please, and I'll send you that coin. And Taco, thanks so much for doing this. And the mail just opened here. I'm gonna send you that script and the pictures again from the Pacific.
I appreciate that. Well, listen, gentlemen, you guys have a great night. We're going to kick it off. And if you want to hang around just for a minute and say goodbye off air, but listen, thank you again for joining Tall Tales with Taco. Just hang out for 1 minute. Now I'll shut this thing down. All right.
Before Freddie says anything.
Hold on a second. Guys, I know it was long, but it was great. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Really do appreciate it. And until next Tuesday, hopefully we'll have power. We'll see what happens, and I can be back in my old stomping grounds. You guys have a great night. Adios, hasta luego, auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, sheshene, au revoir, domo arigato gozaimasu, tando shinde kudasai, ciao, arrivederci. I'll see you next week. Hoorah.